G'day, ZiggyD here, and today I'm here with Mr. Happy, and we're going to be talking about why you should be excited for Final Fantasy XIV. You guys probably saw my first impressions video the other day and probably got the sense of some of my excitement, but there's a lot about the game that I personally haven't explored yet and that I've only heard about and I'm starting to get excited about. And Mr. Happy is a very experienced player. You've been a legacy player, so 1.0, and now going into Realm Reborn, that's correct?
Yeah, legacy player, played on and off during that time, but I got a lot of experience with it, learned a lot of things, and I'm really excited for the changes that are coming in a Realm Reborn.
Awesome stuff. So we're just going to go over the main topics I think that people talk about when they think about Final Fantasy XIV, or when someone asks them why they're excited for Final Fantasy XIV, and Mr. Happy will provide them some opinions, and I'll give you guys some of my analysis as well. So let's jump straight into it, and this is probably the first thing I hear mentioned in any sort of like thread or community discussion about why people are excited for Final Fantasy XIV, and that's the multi-classing system. Do you care to explain how that works in a general sense? Because you have a lot of good guides on your channel about that sort of thing, so you seem pretty knowledgeable.
Yeah, well, actually, that's the topic I covered in my video today because it's been a question that's just been coming up over and over again. Most people who play an MMO, they're used to picking, okay, I'm going to play this class and I'm going to build it this way. In a Realm Reborn, you're never locked into your first decision. They even encourage you to never just stick to your first decision. Basically, how it works is when you start the game, you pick a class, right? And when you level that class to a certain point, level 10, and you do enough of your class quests, you understand how your class plays, then you have the option to go to the other guilds across the world and take part in the other classes, whether they be a mage class or a melee class or a range class. You have free choice of what classes you want to level and how you want to switch between them. And switching between them is really easy too. It's simple. Change your weapon. Yeah, that's it. Yep. Out on the field, as long as you're not in combat, you're not in a dungeon, you just change your weapon and all of the gear presets. You can set everything to make it a nice, clean switch. Your action bar is automatically set and everything.
Yeah, I really liked that in my first beta weekend playthrough. I had leveled an Archer and a Lancer to both around level 10, so when I was going into it sort of an indoorsy area, I thought this is probably a better spot for my Lancer, so I switched over to my Lancer. You have a few seconds cooldown on your skills, but you can pretty much jump straight back into it. Now, from an analytical point of view, I have to say that this 100% like multi-classing system seems kind of dual-edged to me, because I really like leveling alts, and you still get that alt leveling experience, only the way that the quests work in this game is a little bit different. So how do you go about leveling your first character, and then how do you go about leveling, your first class, and then subsequent classes after that? Because I think that's a point people want to know about.
Yeah, a lot of people, this has been a main concern for a long time. They tell you you can get to level 50 off the main story, but the big question is, what do you do after you're done with the main story? There's enough. Obviously, you're not going to do the main story again when you're going over to your second class. So everyone's like, what are we going to do to level up? Well, Yoshi P, who's been very, what's the word I'm looking for? He's listening to the community a lot. Really, he heard these pleas. And he added as many things as he could. He wants leveling to be content-driven. He doesn't want you to be out in the field grinding on monsters for hours on hours on hours, which is something that's pretty much been a staple of the Final Fantasy series as a whole, whether it's an MMO or not. That's what the game is about. And he's included so many different types of content that you can do right from level 1 on your second class and third and fourth and et cetera, et cetera. Some of these things are hunter's logs, which are basically just quests that you get for every class. These are your basic ones, kill a few of these guys, kill a few of these guys, get a giant boost of experience. You have things called fates, which are I guess if I was basically going to compare it to anything, it'd be dynamic events in Guild Wars, except they're not quite the same. They don't have to encompass just killing something or just collecting something. They've ensured us that it takes place. It can pretty much mean anything at all, is what they've told us, and not to think that it's going to be restricted to battling monsters. They've also added leaves, which are basically daily quests that you can get from an NPC, but they're not the daily quests in a sense that if you don't do them that day, they're lost. They actually stack up, and you can stack up to, I think, 99 of them. I'm pretty sure that's still the way it is. That's how it was in 1.0. And if you want, you can do all 100 of them in one go, and they're worth a lot of experience each. They even have adjustable difficulties, so if you want to maybe try and do one that's a little bit higher level than you can do it and get a bonus experience reward. You get bonus rewards for clearing it quickly. You get gear from it. You get gil. You get crafting items. So it's really worth your time to go out of the way and do that. Then you have Guild Hest, which is honestly one of my favorite additions. A lot of people don't actually know about Guild Hest.
Yeah, I haven't explored that one myself. So
It's basically at level 10 you unlock guild hests, and in order to unlock them, you have to basically once you unlock leaves, you'll get a quest from the guy who gives you your leave quests, and then when you do that quest, you'll unlock guild hests, and they're essentially a tool to teach parties how to function. They give you specific instructions like pull this monster without aggroing this monster and clear all the monsters in the area. If you don't do that, it becomes significantly harder. You have things like this adamantoise was stolen by a group of thieves. Wipe out the thieves, but don't kill the adamantoise. Wait till it summons the fire spirits. Kill the fire spirits. Use their sparks to put the tortoise to sleep. The tortoise, I don't know, tortoise, and and they have things like that, and it's very much oriented at getting new players ready for dungeons, which are going to be pretty much your main content. They even give a giant bonus reward for the first time that you do them, and it's literally like 10 times the experience that you would have gotten from subsequent ones. So it's really good for leveling up. And then, of course, you have dungeons per monster. Dungeons are great. You get gear, makes leveling even easier. Can't really complain about that. And then they have said they will introduce even more quests. There's also random side quests around, and you have more daily quests that they're going to add and things like that. So they really want you to be involved with everything in your surroundings in order to level up your other classes.
Yeah, I really got that sense as well. And a lot of people have been saying, like on my first impressions video, they're saying, I don't want to play this game because I know it's going to be super grindy. And I guess, that's coming from the previous Final Fantasy MMO, Final Fantasy XI. And it was a big staple of that game, of course. And not everyone is against grinding, but it really seems like that's not the case in this. In a practical sense, like, for example, I first leveled my Lancer to level 15 or so, pretty much just through story quests and also a few class quests. Then when I switched to my Archer, I kind of had this thing where I was faced like, I don't have these story quests anymore, so what do I do? But then I started tackling my hunting log, and in the process of doing that, I did a few guild leaves, and then I did a few of the class quests, and before I knew it, I was level 10 as well. So in a practical sense, you're always going to have these extra things you can do, and you can even, like, as you said, accrue your guild leaves up to 99 or something like that, something ridiculous high amount, and then save that for like the 4th or 5th class you want to level if you want to do that, or you could use them all in your main class. So quite a bit of option in how you tackle content and level, and I certainly never felt like I was grinding. An interesting point that I wanted to note out with like a lot of the actual quests themselves, like fetch quests, kill quests, and things like that, they felt a lot less grindy in this game compared to other MMOs that I've played, because the numbers that you're working with are much smaller. It's usually like, kill or find 4 or 5 things, and then instead you have a variety of locations and monsters to tackle. Is this something that you think will be repeated throughout the entire game?
Absolutely. I mean, they really don't want it to feel like your staple MMO, and I think that's something that's a really good move, because every game that comes out now, they go, oh wow. A lot of people go WoW killer, WoW killer, WoW killer, and then they go, wait, this is just like WoW. But Final Fantasy is not striving to just be like WoW. It's striving to be a Final Fantasy game, to have its own. People can recognize it for how you progress through the content and everything like that. And even so, the fetch quests and the kill quests, most of them are story related. Yeah. So there's something interesting happening while you're doing it. You're not just go here, come back, hand it in, you're done. There's lots of backstory behind most of it, and it tries to never give you a dull moment.
So just to go back to the multi-classing aspect for that, there's also an additional benefit to that in that you can take the skills from each other class. And I've been looking into like a few of the different ones. For example, I was looking at the Conjurer, and 2 of the skills you can take from the Conjurer class and use when you're in another class is Cure at level 2, and then there's like Protect at level 8, which are both fantastic skills for almost any class. So there's a lot of benefit to just leveling up a Conjurer to level 10 just to get their skills and use in the other classes. And there's a lot more, I guess, a lot more dynamic builds that can go on through that, and I think that's a really solid system.
Yeah, there are a few things to note about that, though, when you narrow down your job, because a job is meant to be a more party-oriented I guess you could say they're just a more party-oriented play style. They restrict that a little bit, so you can't be this machine of everything. You can't just be like, everyone can't just put raise on their bar, and then if you wipe, everybody just raises and things like that. They made sure that there was enough restrictions on it so that they weren't overpowered, but that there weren't so many that you didn't feel the benefit of actually leveling the other classes. You get 2 or 3 classes that you can represent, and usually it's classes that will only benefit your role in a party. For example, as a monk, you might get abilities like Lancer. They have an ability that restores 350 TP instantly, and that is by far one of the most useful abilities that any DPS or tank class could ever get their hands on. So they really made sure that the most important skills you could still use.
Yeah, that actually brings up an interesting point, one that I thought was actually really important for me, because I'm traditionally a very solo-oriented player. However, the more group MMO-style play is something I want to get more into. And this class versus job system, so the classes themselves seem they're very strong for solo play, because you can take those skills from all those different classes and be like kind of a jack of all trades if you want to. But then when you get into that endgame content and you are joining up with groups, you can take your job, which is a much more niche role, as you said, and then focus on your role in that group, so you can be that, you know, that DPS guy or that only healer if you be a white mage. Whereas if you're playing as a conjurer early in the game, you can be a damage dealer and a healer. You can sort of combine it out, and I thought that was a really good system to allow people to play solo if they wanted to, or to play in groups and have a much more clearly defined group role.
Yeah, well, you know, it's something that a lot of people were confused about initially. People who play Final Fantasy Tactics, they might understand it a little bit better, how the class job system works. But a lot of people don't seem to understand why once you have a job you would ever use a class. But what you said right there is exactly why. Just because your job, what if you're going up against a monster that your damage alone cannot kill? You need some sort of sustain in order to stay alive against that monster. Well, that's what you would be in a class for. Your class doesn't do that much less damage that it's not worth really benefiting. It's not really worth using, because you can use all those abilities that you can't use on your job, and it's really useful to have access to all those other abilities. And to put emphasis on that, when you are a class, you actually have not only access to more different classes, but you can equip up to 10 abilities from other classes, as opposed to on your job where you can only equip 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's because of the wider array of choices that you have.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. That sounds really solid. So just to give a bit of an overview of the two main points that we've covered here is this 100% multiclassing system that you can do with the class, and how that can feed into really solid solo play. And then there's the progression and leveling system, which really is moving away from being grindy, which is a big concern that a lot of people have had. So the next thing I wanted to ask you about was the factions and guild system, because a lot of people are mentioning this, especially this term link shells, which I don't fully understand. Why are people excited about this one?
Well, the big thing with people, and I guess we'll use WoW as the example, is once you're in a guild, that's it. You're locked into that guild. The only other people who you're really going to talk to are people on your friends list, and you have to talk to them through private messages. There's no really way to group up and talk unless you maybe have a vent channel or a mumble channel or something like that. And basically, they decided to separate your guild life from your social life. And that's what so you have two things. You have free companies and you have link shells. A free company is essentially your guild. You can only be in one of them, and it enables you to get a lot more bonuses on your character, you know, things that your free company does for you. And also there's some content that's free company specific, like you have to do it with your free company. Whereas link shells are essentially chat channels. So if you're like, oh, I'm playing with 20 friends, but I'm going to be in a different free company, you can still put on a link shell that lets you chat with those people and feel like you're actively playing with them even when you aren't.
That sounds really solid. And also the faction system, someone I mentioned, I read on Reddit, was saying that they really enjoy that the game isn't separated into separate factions, where in games like WoW, where you have these two separate factions, you're essentially never interacting with the other faction. You're splitting up the player base. In this, it seems like everything's much more joined in, and the world feels much more busy in general. Like there's much more going on, even in the closed beta.
Oh yeah, well, you know, that's always been a big thing. Even with Final Fantasy XI, they did that. Now, it isn't that those companies, the grand companies and the different factions, it's not like they don't have some sort of history or some sort of rivalry against each other, because people make their own rivalries, like, oh, Ulta's better than Gridania, or Gridania's better than Limsa. But you still, it's like, those are just those people, and you still have the option to play with those people. Obviously, when it comes to PvP, you want to be able to PvP everybody at once. You don't want to just be forced to, oh, you know, let's say I'm in a 4v4 battle against another team. You don't want to just be against Gridania, because what if your friend is from the same town as you? You want to be able to, you know, prove to your friend's team, like, oh, I can beat you guys too. Yeah. You know, come on. It's a competition between everyone. It's not just a competition between two factions. It also means you won't have things such as, hey, I'm on Horde, I just got dominated by this Alliance guy, let me go make an Alliance character and talk smack to him, which is, you know, just poor sportsmanship altogether.
That's it. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to cover was the Final Fantasy nostalgia and storyline, because it's pretty hard to overlook the fact that this definitely feels like a Final Fantasy game, right down to the look of it, the sounds of the menus, like the actual music in it. Like you've got your Moogles, you've got your Chocobos, you've got pretty much everything there that you expect from a Final Fantasy game. How do you feel about that? Are you a big Final Fantasy player?
Let's just say that Final Fantasy was my first ever game after the Super Nintendo. Everyone has their Super Mario 64s. Everybody has their sort of Final Fantasy. I never played Final Fantasy on the Super Nintendo, for disclosure. I ended up playing them later on the Final Fantasy. Of course, when 7 came out, that was the big one that really got a lot of people into the series. But I was courteous, and I did go back and play the first 6 once I learned how they were actually numbered and that 3 wasn't 6 and 5 wasn't 2, and however they decided to do it when they got to America. But this game tries to be every Final Fantasy wrapped in one. And I don't know if you seen the Crystal's Call trailer by any chance?
I've seen a few of them. I can't remember the names of them.
It's the most recent one from E3, where they kind of show off
Yep.
more of the story and where it's kind of going. They try to give people an idea of what the lore is going to be like. And they literally reached into every Final Fantasy for this one.
Yeah.
Things like your character is known as the Warrior of Light from Final Fantasy 1. The Crystal Tower from Final Fantasy 3 is actually here. It's the final dungeon. The final boss, they've hinted, from Final Fantasy 3 will make an appearance in this game. There's other bosses from Final Fantasy 3. The Golden Saucer from Final Fantasy 7 will be in this game. Limit breaks directly taken from Final Fantasy 7 are in this game, such as Omni Slash and Final Heaven. All of them are taken directly. Braver, Sword Dance, they're all taken directly from 7. You have monsters that were exclusive to Final Fantasy 11, even ones that you may not expect, like the Mammal Jaw, which was a really popular one in 11. You have Eggies, which are the summons in this game, which are essentially the Final Fantasy 12 summons. They just reached into every game that they could. They even have Gilgamesh making an appearance, and he is the only character in Final Fantasy that's been the same character. He's like the Final Fantasy 1 Gilgamesh is the same as the Final Fantasy 14 Gilgamesh. It's the same exact guy. So they are really reaching to make it feel like a Final Fantasy game down to every last detail, and that's one thing that I think Final Fantasy fans really, really want.
Yeah, yep. It just seems like such a huge and powerful and perfect nostalgia trip. I really feel like just playing through, for the 2 days that I played, they're really plucking on all those heartstrings, and I'm like, oh, there's the music, there's that sound effect, there's that creature. It's pretty awesome. Basically, put simply, if you're a Final Fantasy fan or you've played a few Final Fantasy games and enjoyed them, and you're looking for an MMO, why aren't you looking at this game?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of people turned away from 11 because it was too grindy, but this game, it's got all of those things that people didn't like about 11, and it's just taking everything that people loved about Final Fantasy as a whole, and it's just shoving them together in a way that any Final Fantasy fan would be happy.
So that kind of feeds into the final point then, the high quality and polish that's been displayed. So basically, Final Fantasy XIV was a failure when it was first launched. It was pretty rubbish, as I understand it. I didn't actually end up playing it, but I've gone back and read like a lot of the developer comments on what went wrong with the game and all that sort of stuff, and it really seems like they've learned from that and built a game that's super polished and just recovered from that so well. Because I'm still seeing people saying, Final Fantasy XIV is a terrible game, was a terrible game. Why would you bother playing this? But it's definitely not Final Fantasy XIV, is it? As confusing as that might sound.
Listen, we could have a podcast about all that was wrong with the game. Trust me, I played it for 2 months straight when it came out. And when I say 2 months straight, I mean it was like having a second job. If you wanted to hit, it took me 2 months at 16 hours a day in college to hit max level in Final Fantasy XIV 1.0. That is the kind of trash we were talking about. It was you thought Final Fantasy 11 was grindy. This took it to a whole nother level. You could kill monsters and they wouldn't even give you experience points because you didn't get a random proc on your weapon to give you experience points. That's the kind of game we're talking about, transformed into this well-polished machine. And the first step was firing the guy who made the first one.
Yep.
They did that maybe 3-4 months after the game came out. And nobody really knows who Yoshi P is. Like, he came into this project with nobody really knowing, well, what did this guy do in the past? Why did he get picked? And nobody really cares anymore because all he does is answer questions from the community, talks directly to them. He even played with random people at E3. He was like, oh, there's a spare spot. I'll just jump in and play with you guys. He's cool like that. He's not like, oh, I'm the director, I'm the producer, I'm over here, you guys are the players, you're over there. He wants to feel like he's a part of the player base, because how else are you going to make a game great if you yourself as a player don't enjoy it? You have to make sure you enjoy it before you can be sure if anyone else will enjoy it. And that's something that has really helped this become a well-polished machine.
Yeah, one of the biggest things that inspires confidence in me for a game is how communicative and how interested seeming the actual, like, the lead developer is. My best example I can give is Chris Wilson from Grinding and Gabs. From my fans will know exactly what I'm talking about. Super communicative, he just talks to the community a lot. He comes out and makes excellent posts and explains exactly why they're making design decisions they're making, and people have tons of confidence in him and tons of confidence in the game. And it seems like this exact same thing's happening with Yoshi P from what I've been reading.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Listen, I couldn't be happier that this guy took over because I mean, some people were a little disappointed when they found out he was a Final Fantasy VII fanboy. They were like, "Oh no." But honestly, he only took the best things from Final Fantasy VII. He didn't try and make like, "Oh, this is a sad story about some guy who's all confused about who he is and whatever not." They took limit breaks and they took the materia system and they just shoved it into the game. And they were like, no, let's throw the golden saucer in there too. That'll probably be a good addition too, because that's something for you to do in your spare time.
And I do like games that take the material system. Path of Exile is another one that's took the material system from Final Fantasy VII. Excellent system. I love it.
All right, good to hear that. I didn't know that. I didn't know that they use this system similar. I don't think I got far enough in Path of Exile. Yeah, that's it. I need to go back and play that.
But yeah,
watch your videos.
It's a game that's inspired a lot of good ones. So this has been great. I think we've covered the main points. So pretty much you're looking at a super high quality polished game. It is subscription based and you're getting your money's worth with that high quality and polish. You've got that Final Fantasy nostalgia and storyline in spades. You've got a really open and I guess friendly factions and guild system, what it feels like to me. I'm still a little bit confused on how everything works, but the feeling is there. And on top of that, you've got your 100% multi-classing. You can play every single class you want, take skills from either class and build them however you want, all on the one character. And then progression and leveling really isn't grinding, and you've got a ton of different stuff to do. I think that would be my best summary. Would you say that covers it?
Yeah, I'd say that pretty much covers it. I think the only thing left is to tell them how much it costs per month.
Yeah, how much does it cost per month?
I'm not going to talk about the legacy cost because that just might make people upset.
Yeah, isn't it like $1 or something?
It's $9.99 a month, but it's among other things. But there are two different subscription types for people who might have different interests in the game. You have your $12.99 subscription, which is one character per server, which is honestly more than enough. I don't see
with the multi-classing system.
Yeah, exactly. But you get 8 characters total across other servers in case you ever want to make them on another server. I mean, that's up to you. And then you have the deluxe one, $14.99 a month, which is 8 characters on a server. I don't know when you'd ever need 8 characters, but if you really want them, they're there. And 40 characters across the game. I can't wait to meet the guy who somehow uses all 40 of those characters and in a meaningful way.
Yeah, that'd be insane. And you buy the copy of the game, which is, I think I got it for like $22, and that includes a month with it, right, as well?
Yes, if you're a brand new player, it does in fact include 1 free month of the game, and it's pretty cheap for a new release. I mean, I guess they understand they kind of released this game already, so they don't want to make it like
we're gonna give you guys a pretty cheap price on the game to apologize.
Listen, when the game screwed up initially, they gave us 2 extra free months, and they said it's free to play until we fix it, guys. We don't know what to do. But only $20-$30 for the game. I think it's like. I think it's 20 for the PC, or is it 30 for the PC? I actually don't remember. I know it's $10 more for the PS3 version because there was additional development.
Everywhere I'm seeing it is on sale for some amount, and I got it for about $22. It's a little bit more than that, I think. RRP, yeah.
Yeah, so it's really not that bad, and you know, you get your money's worth. You get a free month. That's half the cost right there. So the rest is the disc.
Yeah, that's it. Well, thanks, Mr. Happy, for coming on. You've explained a lot of stuff to me and hopefully to my subscribers. I highly recommend you guys go and check out Mr. Happy's videos on his channel. He's got tons of good guides, and I've actually watched quite a few of them and learnt a bit myself. Thanks for coming on. Hopefully we can do more videos in the future. This has been a blast.
Yeah, sure, man. I would love to, and don't worry, I'm going to be watching all your videos. Also, everybody on my channel who's watching this video, go check him out. I'll include a link in the description below to his channel. If you have any other, because, you know, maybe you don't just like Final Fantasy, maybe you like Path of Exile or a ton of other games. I've seen he's got tons of content for people who like games other than Final Fantasy, so definitely head over to his channel. He's got a great commentary and things like that, so definitely head over there, guys.
Cheers, thanks a lot, man. Alrighty, I'll see you guys later.
All right, take care.